My name is Johanna Ely, and I'd like to welcome the poets, the writers, and the audience to our event for this moment. And for this moment, we are together to listen to each other, to hear what is in our hearts and on our minds. I'd like to thank Samantha McNally and Mary Eichbauer for being our Zoom masters for today's event. And I'm going to quickly go over the guidelines so that our event runs smoothly and professionally. As you know, we are muting the audience and the readers so that we can hear everyone clearly. And so when I call your name to introduce you, you will unmute yourself. Is that correct, Mary and Samantha? Is that okay? You have 4 minutes to read, and I told all of you this. I hope you all practiced. We have we have Becky Bishop White as our timer. And if you're still reading after 4 minutes, she will ring a bell to remind you that you need to stop. But hopefully she won't have to do that. So the chat room is there for you to give compliments to other readers, or if you have a problem or an issue, maybe you can't hear, maybe you can't see, maybe someone you know is coming in late, you can write that down and Mary and Samantha will respond to you, or if necessary, tell me and then I'll say something, but hopefully not. I won't have to do that. And I appreciate that this is a 2-hour event and that you may need to get up for whatever reason. But if you are out of your seat when I call your name, I will call on the next reader. So just know that. And all of you know your reading order. And that's about it. So this event is presented by Benicia Literary Arts and by the Benicia First Tuesday Poets Group. And I'm going to ask Jim White, who is the president of Benicia Literary Arts, to please come forward and say a couple of words. Jim?
All right, I'm unmuted, I hope. Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome to For This Moment. I am Jim White, president of Benicia Literary Arts. And looking at the screen, I sense a lot of energy coming from this Zoom grid of expected faces. It's a special collection of talent, happy to be together, each of us ready to share what's happening at this moment in our minds and our hearts and on our printed pages. We need to thank our host, Benicia poet, laureate, emerita, Johanna Ely, for her vision that became For This Moment, and her continued efforts to keep us poets and writers connected during this difficult time. Assisting Johanna, members of Benicia Literary Arts also deserve credit for getting the word out and encouraging reluctant poets and writers to put their pen down, step away from the keyboard, and join us. If you're not a BenLit member, please consider joining us. Benicia Literary Arts encourages reading and writing in our community by producing events, publishing works of high quality in all genres. We're a nonprofit organization that relies on memberships and donations for our activities. Please visit our website for information on our activities, ways to join, and most importantly, how to donate if you like. Thanks all for participating or just listening. Either way, I'm prepared to be dazzled. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And now I would like to introduce again our new Poet Laureate of Benicia, Mary Susan Gast, who also runs the Benicia First Tuesday Poets group, and also has done a fabulous job of having her column Going the Distance in the Benicia Herald for several months. And many of you have had your poems published through that column. So welcome, Mary Susan.
Thank you. And I just want to invite everyone here who has not taken advantage of the possibility of being at First Tuesday Poets to please do so. If you're not on our mailing list, which is for poetry notes, and would like to be, and to get notices of events like this, and also our First Tuesday gatherings, I will put my email address on the chat after I'm done talking, and you can just send me an email and say, yes, I want to be on the list. In addition to that, we also are continuing with the column that appears in the Benicia Herald every week, or 3 times a week usually. It's called Going the Distance, Yearning to Breathe Free, and it welcomes any writings, have to be short, fit in the newspaper column, but I'll tell you all about that. If you have something you would like to contribute, either poetry or prose, again, send it to me at that email address that I will give to you. And we are looking at publishing the first, the section of writings that have appeared from April 1st, when we started, how appropriately, on April Fool's Day, through Election Day. And we're looking at ways that we might be publishing those as an anthology. So if your writings have appeared during that time, they will be in the anthology. And we'll keep publishing. So First Tuesday Poets coming up on Election Day this year, and we will gather. Usually we would have a featured poet. We're not sure we're going to do that this month because we don't know how many of us are going to be there, but we have accommodations for everyone who wants to come and look at and share from their hopes and dreams on that night. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary Susan. And we look forward to hearing your writing shortly. So we're going to start now, and I'm assuming everyone is muted and ready to go. And so our first reader is Lois Requist, who is Poet Laureate number 4 of Benicia. So let's please welcome Lois.
Thank you, Johanna. In recent years, wildfires have hit us hard in the fall. The first poem I will read is an ekphrastic one, inspired by a painting by Samantha McNally, Fire on the Mountain. On the ridgeline, black silhouetted firemen confront a raging hell. Not holy words about fire and brimstone, the campfire will not burn forever. Long enough, unspeakable pain utters volumes that will not go away soon. Gone all we planned for, saved, each paycheck sending dollars to the bank for the taxes, for a place of our own. The graceful spouted blue teapot from grandmother, no one's now. The bed where we slept, loved, curled into each other, a shield made of ourselves. We ran against a wall of fire. Some of us escaped that day when paradise was lost. The other poem that I'm reading is a sestina. I haven't written one for many years. My kids were in high school when I last wrote one. Now my grandchildren are in college, so it's been a while. I don't have time to explain the form, but there is a YouTube video called How to Write a Sestina that, if you're interested, you could look up. This form allows a kind of circling back, which was what I wanted to do. And the poem is entitled For This Moment. Strolling the beach, a quiet autumn morning, fishermen have for centuries cast lines as poets reach in the deep to connect with some rare knowing from an inner shore, to sustain us through the season's journey and to that distant mountain we must climb. The long grasses bend with grace as we climb on a before the world awakes morning. No endless mind chatter on this journey. A little whisper at the back with lines we didn't want to hear. On this still shore, wishing to quell the raucous and connect earth, sky, and land, waiting to connect for healing and health on this rugged climb. Clean air and water, fertile ground on shore. The many who dream freedom one morning get refugee camps and crossed out lines, rejected as other on their journey. A rocky path, yet a hopeful journey. Marching, our voices loud and clear, connect. George Floyd breaking our complacent lines. Systemic racism is a hill we climb. Arrest the powerful this brave morning. Arrive with justice on that other shore. Black Lives Matter on a beautiful shore. Hate rallies threaten us on our journey. Shots are fired on this ugly morning. You cannot come here. You should not connect. Below us, the steep ladders that we climb broken. Those in power have cut the lines. I watch the fisherman, his knowing lines. A white bird surfs, fishes the sandy shore, gathering sustenance for the climb. Perhaps hope, a bench to soothe the journey. What will heal nature and people, connect land, air, water for another morning. Morning, we plead for justice to connect, lines that will lead us to a fairer shore. It is an arduous journey, a steep climb.
Thank you so much, Lois. Our next reader is a wonderful poet from Crockett, Anita May.
Thank you, Johanna. Thank you to all our participants and listeners. Consider this. Maybe our Earth is just an experiment. Maybe one of the 100 billion galaxies that has already been discovered will become the next experimental station. Maybe everything we have done here had a purpose. Maybe it won't be repeated on the new planet. Maybe joy has the only resonance. Maybe the fact that pain, anger, and despair are so prevalent here is to push us out of this world into the next and urge us on toward the new sun. Maybe the body grows old, but the mind still dances. Maybe the family is torn apart, but we can still use the phone to call a truce. Maybe everything doesn't matter so much to me because I have someone, a certain one, who does. Sometimes, or maybe even many times, loving even one person is enough of a reason to be here, right here, with these problems and these limitations, because loving even one person is enough. My next poem, I've been reading all kinds of crazy things during the COVID period, and this is called Minoan Bull Leaping. Stars streak across Cretan skies, set the late summer night aflame. Morning arrives as a beloved guest. The festival ground is festooned with blue and green Muslim flags. In the yard, men tell tales, call out to acquaintances. Women laugh, share confidences. All around, children run while mothers watch. Maidens and their ladies flock together, whispering with friends, nibbling on dainty cakes and sipping herbal tea, while young men joke and boast with an eye on the maids. By midday, the crowd is a clamorous roar. We who challenge the fates wear tight belts and little more. If one of our tribe should catch a horn or be trampled, the crowd will thrill to our blood. Finally, trumpets blare and drums thrum, Announce entry of the sacred bull, garland with acanthus. The gathering fizzes with anticipation. The bull the gods have chosen for me is led forward, straining guide ropes. I stand alone in defiance of fear, hesitate a long moment. My legs quiver, intention firm. I invoke my mother's name, surrender my head to my heart, sending one last prayer to the goddess. The gleam in obsidian eyes threatens, while spittle dripples from nose and mouth. The bull's great head drops to charge. Deadly hooves stamp, raise a sparkling cloud of dust, suspending the beast in a haze. He will bring me honor or a glorious death. Arms pumping, I am running to him, muscles tensed to jump. Bounding up, dusty hands push off from the lyre of horn. Vaulting over the wide, heavy back, I leap into eternity. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Next reader is Nina Serrano. She is a poet, an author, a playwright, a KPFA radio producer, and a very wise woman. Welcome, Nina.
Friend like a songbird shares words, said through a mask, they reach my heart. Each thought ignites my lonely mind. Her words are true to our moment. Her presence feeling heaven sent, said through a mask, they reach my heart. Each thought ignites my lonely mind. A friend like a songbird shares words. This next poem is called Long Time No See, Poets in the Moment. Welcoming her, I cannot see her glorious smile under the mask. Her uncut hair hangs longer. We catch up. She'd written a new book of poems, bravo. Gone through the pandemic roller coaster, me too. We sit in the backyard shade, drinking in the moment, the right now of it, among hummingbirds, finches, and a swaying wind chime in the warm breeze. The moment relaxes and stretches to read each other our poems. Some uplift, some face the plague and climatic trauma. Then we write new poems in a complicated form, though we are both usually free versers, letting the poem take us where it may. Remembering how we used to sing in her car on the way to and from live poetry readings. We sing the old favorites. The finches sing too. Our duet has a choir, raising goosebumps on my arms. She leaves, promising to return. The song hangs in the air. In the early evening, I go out to water the yard. The plants sing out, it's the hammer of justice. It's the bell of freedom. It's the love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. Our next reader is a poet, musician, librarian from Vallejo, Jeff Kingman.
Everyone, and thank you so much for putting on this event and getting everyone together. I know we all appreciate that very much. This first poem I'll read is from my first full-length poetry book, which is being published in May. And it's mostly a collection of portrait poems of notable women. But this poem actually is about a fictional person. So it's called Sadie. Light cannot find you behind canned spinach and soap flakes. The box tops shout merrily, merrily. hide in the purse and smell Wrigley's and powder, nervously snapped open and closed until your other has driven you home. Sadie looking at you in the compact. Down the hallway, the study, husband's ropey neck, quick step. Ah, now steam and bubbles are way up, fogging your brow-line glasses. Drain the sink, rather slide the dishes into slippery mineral oil, curve of the bowl. Your ear to the cat for the full throttle, pillowy belly, warm. Stroke the harlequin pillowcase, bells on the corners conjuring this morning's sweater girl. Filene's hat counter. What did you want to whisper? Soft? Small enough to come inside your own pocketbook. And this next one, so working at the library, one day we discovered two teenagers trying to have sex in the stall in the women's room. And I thought that was really sad that they obviously had no place else to go. This poem is called Kids Have No Place. Dew point, decimal off quotidian, back. Librarian will find, reunite, kiss corner, westerns, l'amour, burning nipples, nape. Mine, yours, let's bookshelver, shit. Flip-flop to local documents, slap feet too loud, reference no good, sneak stall in women's, he feet on toilet, she grabs waist, lip, nipple, too no, young lady, security boots. But somewhere brightness will be arranged, voices replaced, time. Well, just be, maybe up or at, something quiet. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm checking before I go on, is Juanita Martin here? I didn't see her. She was scheduled to read, but I do not see her anywhere on the screen. Okay, so that's too bad. I was looking forward to hearing her. Our next reader is a very accomplished poet and a member of Ina Culbreth, Robert Eastwood.
Thank you, Johanna, and hello, everyone. My first poem is called Hanging in There. Usually a cat in the meme or a kitten over a chasm of empty space and desperate clawing. But sometimes a frog spread eagling on a rope, trying to make it to the other side. Or there's Yoda in somber light, his ears pointing at the poles, saying, hang in there, you must. Or the little dachshund sprinting on inadequate legs toward you, determined, stuck in the word there, in there, out there, where you are. Because there is here. There is a there. Is there no there, there? Hold on, it's rough, but you're holding on and living. No te bajes los brazos. Don't lower your arms, as they say in Buenos Aires. Or maybe aguantas, you hold. Or maybe cuelga ahí, just hang there. We're hanging in there together. My next poem is Our Epic as It Feels. I passed the guy while walking Willie, my Cerberus of anything edible. When you ask, how's it going, you expect an empty answer, right? Willie had stopped, to pee on the guy's marigolds, which were wilted anyway. The guy worked on his car at the gutter. He answered me, living the dream. He said it like he meant it. Not now, I thought, not when we should all be masking and steaming our glasses, when air may show clear and quiet, but is actually polluted with sour politics and tribal drums. Few planes are in the sky anymore, just choppers thumping over miscreants. We've adopted a 2-yardstick dance around one another and look through plexiglass at cashiers sliding our cards chastely through mail slots. I considered, though, living the dream could be true enough as I ambled on down to the corner. The guy may be right on. If it's the dream you have because of too much pepperoni and beer, if it's the one where you're naked in front of the class, Edenic, reciting a poem you can't remember, or there's no time left on the clock and your car is nowhere to be seen, or everything on your desk, on your papers, just non sequiturs, no hope for the final. Or you see your dad and he's in the ICU, but the bed is too high, too far, and there's no way to reach him, and alarms are ringing, and nothing is enough. And your mom is crying, but you don't wake up now with a start like you used to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Our next poet is from Fairfield and known for her ekphrastic poetry. I don't know if that's what you're reading today, but welcome, Suzanne Bruce.
Okay. Thank you, Johanna. No, I'm not doing ekphrastic today, but thank you to you and Mary and Samantha for putting this connection together. My first poem, I'd like to give a little explanation. Many of you know that I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my almost 95-year-old mother still lives there in assisted living. And when President Trump was going to do a rally in Tulsa, I knew that my friends were not going to be attending, but I got very concerned about some of the people who work at my mom's facility who were going to go. When the devil comes to town. An exceptionally warm evening, we sit outside sharing celestial views, divine moon shining through treetops, only sound our breaths. Without speaking, we hear each other's worried thoughts. Tomorrow, a rally in our hometown, the one where we were raised but no longer live, still friends and relatives do. COVID-19 real to us. We understand its harshness, its sneaky spread in shared airspace. As public non-believers will gather, listen to pledged lies, and gullible faces will tell all. Political red hats but no mask will flood the arena. A devil will appear, a sinister smile, a fisted wave. Who will watch this path rise and rise while potholes of hellish ideas await stumbling fools? We, defined as suckers and losers, who gave all. Apostasy fires through our veins. Summon hope to collect needed prayers, dispense soothing stones, not cast them. It is like what we imagine fear to be, dark, hot, thick, formed from a tongue that is cold. So we hold our faith forever flowing free, look to the heavens, request that when this devil leaves our town, that angels can erase his shadows. And my second thought for in this moment is we cannot forget the caged children during all of this. So I wrote this personification poem for them. Unmeasured strides. I am the steps you have not taken, No footprints in wet sand or toes dipping into a lively ocean. No frolicking on cool grass. Instead, my fright, unmeasured strides. The color of my skin, a target, as I run from a disastrous country to one I thought would be open to my undanced rhythm, only to find me meeting a target of hate. And now I feel like lead, as nothing I have heard said can lighten the load. Bound by the unknown, an unfair edge, I dream to take new steps, to feel the cushion of relief, just to feel it all, whatever the ground can give. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Our next reader is the current poet laureate of Benicia, Mary Susan Gast.
Thank you. In preparing for this event, I realized that I've been living pretty intensely in these moments that are around us, just before, just after, during, and I needed to get away. So I time traveled a bit back. This is a poem that I had written some time ago about events that happened even longer ago. On July 19th, 1979, the Sandinistas took over Nicaragua. Although the revolution was later corrupted, there was a period when old divides were bridged and old alienations healed. This poem is the story of two lovers who met in post-revolutionary Nicaragua, and upon their return to the USA, found their homeland to be in significant ways pre-revolutionary. Color line. You'd think those bloodstains might make that concrete wall a little smoother to the touch, but no. The cement snags and catches on my fingertips, now gloved in memory, when I trace the strands of color. 4 dribbled, narrow satin paths, fading testimony to this site of execution, one for each of the 4 chambers of my shattered heart. Managua, you and I were taking baby steps during their revolution. Managua, 20 years later, that summer of sweaty nights, you from Panthers, street gangs, Ivy League scholarships, haloed in dreadlocks. Me, from civil rights workers, human rights watches, rooted and rerouted throughout the Middle West. White girl, mantillaed in flowing Spanish. Drunk with talk, thoughts, words, ideas, and bad beer. Exhausted from the daily swelter of constructing rough buildings at steep elevations, we could never rest in our harsh, mosquito whining rooms. Only the rooftop mattress could topple us into sleep's tangled languor. Never before had my high tension wiring clashed and sparked with someone of such similar amperage and voltage. Politics and poetry, touch and testiness, stomping around stubbornness, pranks and silliness, and dead-on honesty in that fevered jungle after the revolution, where our time was limited, our stay finite, our good works too soon done. Then, with the quick, impersonal precision of a waiter shaking breadcrumbs from a tablecloth, the subtle, improbable conspiracies of bright-eyed destiny flicked us away from the butterfly-laden valleys of Maragalpa, moved us northward to the swirling, engulfing, pre-revolutionary currents of the East Bay. At your at first eager beckoning, I slipped like Berkeley fog through the streets of West Oakland to your door. You teased me and accused me and cherished me and forgot to call me. I jabbed at you and reached for you and screamed that I was not some poofy liberal confection to be trampled while you lumbered back and forward from the pole of your soul chilled on ice to the magnetic south of your thunderous and astute generosity of spirit. Despite my self-indulgent choking tears, I kept a bead on the non-negotiable, non-negotiated social contract of a love that was garroted in silent, life-thieving assassination by color line before it could draw a fully oxygenated breath. Stalked and hunted down by all the secret agents of the ancient slave fortresses that no dervish revolution yet has truly spun away.
Thank you, Mary Susan. Our next reader is, can you hear me? Everyone can hear me still, yes? No?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Can you
we
hear
cleared
me
up.
now? Yes, okay.
Cleared it
I
up.
muted myself for a while because I was coughing.
Wasn't
Okay,
that
so our next reader is Hannah Rousselot. And I don't know you, but welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
No, it's just fine, honey. No, it's just.
I
thank
saw
you.
your post on Facebook, and so I thought I would be a part of your wonderful reading today. And I'm very happy I went before 3 because unfortunately I have to leave then. So I'm reading poems from my upcoming collection that's coming out next year from Finishing Line Press. It's called Ocean Currents, and it has to do with what I think is another unseen epidemic that is happening, especially now. But my experiences with mental illness and the things that a lot of people are struggling with right now, anxiety, depression, and suicide, that I think we're going to really look back on this time and see a big uptick. And so that's kind of what my poems are about. So this first one is called Acrobat. Acrobat. I can trace the line that divides my brain into half with delicate feet and calloused toes. Sometimes my balance is on point. There is no fear of falling. I drink my coffee and write my poetry and kiss my life full on the lips. Sometimes the thread is frayed and the bottom is 1,000 kilometers away, begging for me to see it from her perspective. Down there, up is down, and sick is healthy, and hurt is good. My reflection whispers to me, you can't be trusted with yourself. You need to control it all. Don't let it seep out. I do this because I love you. And it feels easy, so delicious to dive in without looking back, like jumping off of a waterfall where the bottom is concealed, but the pool I see is a beautiful deep blue. I know it is best to stay put, to not give in, to be stronger than your illness and love yourself the right way. But oh, those impulsive decisions are a sweet nectar salve on my raw brain. She knows just what to say, that reflection of mine, to make all the therapists and psychiatrists and friends and lovers sound like they don't know shit about me or my life. I used to look her straight in the eyes, encourage her words, and fall without resistance. Now I look straight in her eyes and call her a bitch. I've worked too hard on my routine. I will not fall for her lies. I know the bottom is sharp and I refuse to impale myself again. It hurts too much, not in a good way, at least for today. This other poem I have, also from Ocean Currents, is called Flipside. If you find my sorrow, keep it. It has been too long festering and coagulating and self-congratulating. And I, unbound by it, might maybe, hopefully, finally reach those floating cities perched on colossal turtles whose shadows we grieve under and leave us begging for purchase. But probably, likely, doubtlessly, I will just end up pining for it, the same way the sand longs for tiny creatures leaving their eggshells that disturb its grainy pattern and leave into turbulent and bitter water. And I only have 45 seconds, so I won't read another one, but I will share my website in the chat in case you would like to hear more of my work. And I would like to thank you guys again for bringing me into this space and for hosting such a wonderful poetry group. I really love hearing what other people are writing and people from all over the world. I'm based in Los Angeles right now. It really helps grow your own practice to hear other people read. So thank you very much.
If you ever want to join the First Tuesday Benicia Poets group, just zoom on in the first Tuesday of the month. And as Mary Susan said, we have the information in the chat. We loved hearing your poetry. Thank you so much. Our next reader is Becky Bishop White, one of our wonderful Benicia poets.
Hi there. I'm going to start the timer to keep myself honest. And thank you everybody for coming, and thank you Johanna, Mary, and Samantha for holding down the fort. This poem is titled In This Moment. In this moment, we are driving home from Mendocino, Jim at the wheel, through the redwoods on Highway 128. We have been on this road many, many times. I mentally murmur an apology to every stump I see, noting the slaughter of trees to make room for our road, when an unbidden memory comes of my daughter at age 3. We had a plum tree planted by the city of Berkeley, set in the square cut out of the sidewalk in front of our house. There was a row of them on each side of Carlton Street. Little Steffi loved the tree where we parked our car, and she would sometimes hug it when we returned home from her preschool. I, weary from work, barely noticed the thing, except the evening it was gone. Gone, cut down by the city that day, every plum tree on our block. Our tree's stump was shaped like a heart. Steffi threw herself upon it and sobbed, a soft heart on a heart of wood. She eventually reconciled her grief by accepting the tree's gift of a heart to remember it by. Now, 30 years later, I have tears in my eyes remembering the little girl so moved by the death of a tree. I am so not in this moment that I am missing some of the most breathtaking scenery in the USA. The redwoods giving way to oaks and vineyards, orchards, masses of gray rock covered in yellow lichen heaving out of the hills of grazing lands, barns old and new, country stores, each turn yielding yet another new sight, displaying how life continues even in this time of pandemic, as I try to still a sorrow I cannot name from 3 decades ago, that may have something to do with childhood innocence, or how we alter nature, or how I am altered, no longer the young woman who has traveled down this road. many, many times. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky. Our next reader is Deborah Fruchey. Deborah, I'm so happy to be able to hear you again. I went to her book launch the other night, and again, congratulations and welcome to this reading.
Thank you so much. I thought I'd try something new today. It's actually not in the new book. It's called Halloween 2020, and it's fresh off the press. The lightning complex fires scream for rain since August. It is October now, pumpkin time, but we will have no little ones dressed as ghosts or witches this year. Please let us have wet rain, the treat instead of the trick that has already been played on us. The air growing cool and hesitant, a scratchy little wind, a first plop on the window dust leaving a sooty streak, then a patter trotting between drops out of the yard where orange leaves lie and into the Halloween decorated house to listen with sedentary joy while ghosts hang from the ceiling and skeletons clatter on the roof tiles. Bring the downpour. Let windshields blur in opaque sheets beyond the strength of wipers, so the freeways stretch as empty black ribbons. Let lawns devolve into bogs. Let human and domestic beasts huddle inside by small, tame fires, while the large wild ones subside outdoors. May field animals cease their panic runs and trees sigh in relief. May evacuees all go home and count their objects as blessings. Rain, you came last bringing lightning and disaster, showing us nature's wrath. Come now and remind us of God's mercy in this callous year. And one more briefly from the book. This is called Recipe for Marital Peace. She picks up the sweater from the bedroom floor as if the breach between them could be closed by tidying things. It is a token of her faith. Good housewifery will lead to marital fusion. Keep the lawn trimmed, the house painted, and the marriage, like the clapboard, should weather well. In the kitchen, she kneads dough until her thoughts pound out smooth. The argument, like this bread, must be leavened and left to rise. By evening, they will once again find each other digestible.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next reader, I think, had to leave, unfortunately. I'm going to check to make sure. Dr. Teresa Van Woy, I think I read in the chat that she had to leave suddenly. Just making sure. Okay, so we're going to move ahead to another wonderful Benicia poet, Kathy Monroe.
Thank you, Johanna, and thank you all who organized this event. This poem is entitled Unnamed Perhaps. His small shambling steps give evidence to his aging, fragile state as he slowly shuffles down the street, bowed over, unaccompanied by a friend or even a cane. Surely a cane would help, but perhaps he's too proud to use one, or perhaps he doesn't have one. He is anonymous, his face masked by his old fishing hat slung low over his forehead, the sunglasses forestalling glaucoma, the COVID mask over his mouth. Mystery man. He could be seen from the neck up as a dangerous desperado, but no one will be intimidated by his faltering gait. Destination unknown, perhaps nowhere in particular, risking falling just to escape the confines of his living quarters. In this gentle town, those who see him will regard him with tolerance, no one wishing him ill or depriving him of his right to exist freely. But for many, their regard will be mixed with generous doses of pity and perhaps impatience. But if he has a need, perhaps someone will help him out, some ageless Boy Scout aiding him to cross the street, holding back traffic. But who will ask his name? My second poem was inspired by something I had read on social media. I don't remember who the person was, but they were bemoaning how difficult the year 2020 was. And so they decided that maybe it should be its own kind of curse word. They didn't do anything else with it, but I thought, well, why not? So here I have a poem entitled 4 Numbers for Your Favorite 4-Letter Words, or 2020 This. And this you will never see in print. What the 2020 is going on here this year? Everything's all 2020'd up. First, we have a 2020 killer virus restructure our lives, while the 2020 administration fiddles around, not taking the pandemic seriously, and then 2020ing all the efforts to contain it. Next, we have some 2020 holes who feel it's okay to 2020 up Black people's lives. And then they infiltrate legit demonstrations, which are protesting 2020 racists. Not to mention that we have this unending heat wave 2020, frazzling everyone's last nerve. To make that situation even worse, the lightning storms from that 2020 heat wave set large areas of the state on fire, displacing many and filling everyone's lungs with smoke. What a bunch of 2020. So many people's lives have become a living 2020. Meanwhile, other parts of the country are fighting 2020 floods, tornadoes, and massive hurricanes. The national elections have become so divisive that many people are turning off their TVs and not giving a 2020. How many more months do we have left in this year? 4, you say? Time to have a contested election, a flu epidemic, and maybe an earthquake? Oh, 2020. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kathy. Our next reader is a wonderful storyteller and poet, even though she won't admit it, Nicky Ruxton.
You're muted.
Nikki, unmute yourself.
The host can unmute her.
No, the host can't, unfortunately. All I can do is ask her to unmute.
Oh, she's frozen.
She's frozen. Maybe come back to her later?
Okay, yeah. Nikki, I'm gonna go ahead and you're muted. I can't hear you. Frozen. Okay. So I'm going to go to the next reader and then let me know when you can talk. Our next reader is Jon Gourdine. Welcome, Jon, and I'm glad I was able to get you in before you have to scoot. So,
Me too.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Yes.
Really appreciate it. I'm brand new to writing this year because of COVID, and I hope you enjoy this. My contact information is now in the chat. Okay, I call this A Dangerous Part of Town. A frightened young mother hurries down the streets of Sector 7, Grid 249. Her efforts to silence the crying child in her arms fail. Earlier, she abandoned her damaged transport. Her communicator was out as well. She had heard about the urban pirates who jacked tech and managed to bring down transports from time to time. Was she a victim of one of the many groups that roamed the area she tried desperately to avoid? The streetlights barely illuminate this part of town. Many are broken, others are just not there anymore. Eyes peer at her from darkened alleyways filled with garbage and disappointment. Someone or something grabs her shoulder. She screams and turns. The creature in front of her might be described as a man. Its features all melted like candle wax, the right side not even close to being aligned with the left, yet this thing lived. The tattered remains of some type of clothing hang loosely from the uneven shoulder bones and hips positioned at an impossible angle. Another creature shuffle plops forward and drifts into the light. These are the Disfigs, creatures deformed by the miracle cure intergenesis and doomed to wander the streets until they meet a much-wanted death. Realizing that running is not an option, she bends down low, protecting Sabrina. One of the creatures, an eye on its forehead, the other on its chin, reaches for her baby. She swings a foot and kicks the creature squarely in the groin. With her eyes on the still advancing creature, she bends down and gently places the crying Sabrina against the wall behind her, confident that none of them will reach the baby. Fist clenched, she turns and faces them. From the wall behind her, one of the creatures materializes and grabs Sabrina. The other Disfigs divide like the parting of the Red Sea, allowing the Disfigs to escape with Amlin's baby high overhead. They close ranks and smile, a steady stream of drool sliding from their mangled lips and snot from their noses. Amlin runs at the group. A creature kicks her in the stomach, knocking the air out of her. She hits the ground. She swings and kicks valiantly, injuring several as the creatures overwhelm her. The squirming mass of arms, legs, and heads form a pile on top of her. More Disfigs arrive. Her worst fear, being eaten alive, was about to happen, and she was helpless to save her darling Sabrina. The creatures pin her to the ground. Amlin hears Sabrina crying, her baby. A transformation happens. Her eyes flash white hot. Her clothing disappears as silver and gold coils discreetly cover and surround her body. Her raven black hair sweeps up and is encased in gold headdress. A dazzling ruby appears between her eyes. A glowing white ball of light appears in each hand. She looks at her body as she slowly rises. The creatures grab at every part of her body. It looks like a scene from Dante's Inferno as those sentenced to hell are pulled down by other doomed souls. She looks quickly left. The creatures holding her explode from her, encased in a white ball of light, and fly up into the air and vanish. She repeats the sequence on her right as she continues to rise into the air. Below her, the creature turns with Sabrina in his arms, looks up at Amlin, looks at Sabrina, tosses the baby into the air and opens his mouth impossibly wide and waits. Amlin whispers, "Sabrina." Two slivers of white light fly out from the child, slide down the creature's throat. The Disfig grabs at his throat as his body begins to glow. Amlin floats down, suspending Sabrina in the air, pulling her towards her as she lands. She kisses and soothes her baby, making cooing sounds. She looks at the Disfig squirming on the ground. "Tried to hurt my baby, mistake. So what do you think, Sabrina? Should we punish the bad Disfig?" Sabrina smiles and giggles, which makes Amlin laugh. "Oh, my sweet baby, you are so right. Punish it is." Still looking at Sabrina, she waves one hand. The Disfig floats in front of them. "Say bye-bye, Disfig." She waves bye-bye. The sound of breaking bones is clearly heard as the Disfig folds like origami, then vanishes. "Let's go home, baby. Daddy's going to be worried." A burst of light 20 feet high and wide explodes in front of her, silhouetting her and Sabrina. She shields her eyes as 4 Bioterrans surround her. Daria Demonova, the Bioterran commander, a nanite floating in front of her, gestures. The nanite hits Amlin in the neck, penetrates her skin, and attaches to her spine, paralyzing her. Daria takes the baby from her arms. Eyes wide open, Amlin tries to cry out. The air shimmers. They all disappear. Thank you.
Thank you, Jon. Nikki, are you able to unmute, unfreeze? I don't see you. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead then. Our next reader is one of our Zoom masters, Mary Eichbauer. She is also the editor-in-chief of Benicia Literary Arts. Let's give Mary a welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Johanna. And thanks to my co-host, Samantha McNally. She's doing a great job. This poem was inspired by a painting by Camille Pissarro, one of the French Impressionists. And it's called Rue Saint-Honoré in the Afternoon, Effect of Rain. Leaning out the window, he gazed his fill, face kissed by tiny droplets, smaller than tears. As he prepared the canvas, wheels clattered in the street. Horses' hooves rang like iron against the stones. Downstairs, a carriage stopped at the hotel door. Voices echoed, water plashed in the fountain that he painted with a few quick strokes. Down the Rue Saint-Honoré, buildings marched into blue oblivion. Clouds scuttled off faster than he could paint them. The sun set early on that autumn afternoon. By the time the artist cleaned his brushes and went down to the cafe, the light had gone. Rain hissed against wet cobblestones, reflecting hazy lights under a murky sky. Coaches gathered at the Théâtre Français. When you stand before this painting, it opens, becomes again a window, silent witness to the melancholy of that rainy afternoon, that hour when it's too early for a drink and too late for all the things you meant to do, that hour when mortality presses hard against your soul. So you linger at the window for a moment, as the artist did, while your brushes soak in turpentine, a cigarette burning between stained fingers. Today, Pissarro's window opens in Madrid, in a museum that bought the painting from someone who bought it from someone else, and so on, until we find the Nazi officer who took it in trade for life. Safe passage for a Jewish family out of occupied France. Now, their heirs, defeated by commerce and the law, will not own this work again. Who looks through this window is not redeemed. Who feels the mist against skin hot with shame must seek redemption in action achieved beyond the painting, in creating a new world, a new window, the frame for a righteous world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Our next reader is Kevin Glasgow. Welcome, Kevin.
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right.
Uh-oh. You're sounding a little fuzzy right now.
A little fuzzy?
There you go. You're
Okay, I'll get closer here. Can you guys see my contact okay? All right, good.
I can only hear you. I can't see you.
You guys can see me?
Yeah.
I can't.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kevin, because we can hear you. Maybe your internet will catch up. It says your bandwidth is low, but we can hear you.
Okay. All right. I've written a few poems about about Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. It's not really a holiday, but anyway, here goes. The first one's called October Sky. I'm looking out the window and up into the starry sky. I'm waiting for the sun before I can close my eyes. The whispers I keep hearing are coming through the walls, almost like the growling that's now echoing down the halls. The flesh upon my arms seems to rise in needle points, and the pounding in my head is like the pain within my joints. So heavy are the lids that reflect between each breath. In the window I'm beseeching to bring a painless death. Yet still the whispers grow so loud, and shadows stretch upon the ground, like clawed hands slowly reaching out, hungrily for me. I'm still waiting for the sun. Before this hellish night is done, I'll curse the stars out one by one, until it's safe to dream. Every star, yes, every one, until my soul is free. That was October Sky. The next one's called Night Terrors. I see it in the darkness, two pinpoint lights that glow, unwavering and unmoving, the creeping feeling grows. Light draining from my vision, no other thing exists, except those demon eyes, taking spirit from my lips. If I could move or scream, the spell would break, I'm sure. but the creature came upon me like a sickness with no cure. Can't say how long I've been here. Nothing else exists for me, except those demon eyes for all eternity. And my last one is called Visitors. It's a little different. Sometimes it truly seems like we're nothing more than dreams, simply caught inside machines on a higher dimension. All at once I scream as if lifted by a beam into a saucer-shaped machine with unknown intentions. Wait, tick-tock, heart stops, heart drops, time stops, waking up naked and confused among the crops. Now all at once I'm feeling urgent, synaptic bubbles like detergent, ones and zeros flashing past, building binary mass. Speed of light is fucking fast in another dimension. Vibrations in my brain, thumping, chugging like a train. Could it be I'm now insane on a higher dimension? Time to recompense. Angels be not second guessed. Can't you see this mind's now blessed in another dimension? Never ask my true intention. I'm a weaponized invention. Among the stars we'll meet, I'm guessing, in another dimension. That's it. Thank you. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hope you guys enjoyed.
Our next poet is Dave Holt, and he's also a wonderful musician and songwriter. Welcome, Dave.
There we go. Uprising. Share a glimpse with me into paved over earth. See what thrives below concrete, where tree roots whisper, saving knowledge to each other, where mother trees nurture their seedlings, signal warnings, sing forest spirits back into the sacred circle from where we exiled them. Listen closely. They are mobilizing to take back the land. Hello, creator of the light. We have a new morning. I'm getting noise, is it?
Yeah, Kevin Glasgow's name is coming up as talking.
Sorry about that. Let me put my thing here.
And I'm getting beepings.
Yeah, we need Kevin to mute. There we go. Okay.
All right.
Do you want to start again, Dave, or are you okay?
Was it
You
kind of
wanna-
lost? I don't know.
Yeah, start over. Why don't you read it again?
Thank you.
Sure.
Uprising. Share a glimpse with me into paved over earth. See what thrives below concrete, where tree roots whisper, saving knowledge to each other, where mother trees nurture their seedlings, signal warnings, sing forest spirits back into the sacred circle from where we exiled them. Listen closely. They are mobilizing to take back the land. Hello, creator of the light. We have a new morning, cool and cloudy. Sun shines through the ragged cumulus, broken places to light the way, illume a path through wilderness, just where to do some real act of peace, make a friendship, heal this world in whatever measure we are able together. Strawberry moon. Dark angel clouds, sunset belly of fire, but soon strawberry moon, color of summer, sometimes feeling all of us caught, naked lovers vulnerable to moonlight, carried with the flotsam of everything broken, through torn hull of the ship of state, yet no one leads the way to safety, passive politicians, the women too, downcast, speechless, fleeing to hidey holes. Floodwaters gonna follow, find them, still gonna drown when the ship goes down. Staring hopeless into abyss, I think longingly of the homeland where I was born, where I think we would not adulate such a strongman tyrant as this false one, sprung fully formed from the troubled brow of America's frowning Zeus cloud, storm cloud shadow, Damoclean sword hanging over the waiting world. We wait for strawberry moon. It rises, rides on a marine wind, herald of the harvest, fields of red berry fruit under warm June sun. Thank you. Ship of the future. We have time for one more?
Probably. If not, you'll hear the bell.
There's time. There's time.
We are building a new civilization. If you're in denial, shouting against the wind, flying in the face of the real, shooting the rapids, hung on to a worn out lifeboat, try to feel the import of the time that arrives inside a scream that rattles the cage. Rights are artificial. Nature with red claw and canine doesn't provide, but we've woven into the fabric of our culture a dream, a vision that never came true, but must not be torn and dismembered now. All colonized peoples have drunk deep the cup of grief. Let us use our human heritage to build the ark of justice, the ship of the future, set sail for a moral universe of brother and sisterhood on the far shore. With us will travel a legion of angels, some kind of divine scribes, virtual video makers, heralds of history who preserve the thoughts, ideals, aspirations, and memories of the races from eons of time gone down. We don't know how it's done, but we need the seraphic messengers because we do the job imperfectly. Hear the cries and heed what's left to us, white conquerors, settler colonialists. Open imprisoned minds, unburden hearts to our fellows, share paths to a higher spirit mind where the world's prophecies abide, awaiting rediscovery, and travel with the historian angels to see ancient purposes again revealed.
Thank you, Deborah.
Johanna, Nicky is back.
Oh, great. All right, Nicky, would you like to read now?
Sure.
Okay, Nicky, a great storyteller, and as I said, a great poet, even though you won't admit to that.
Okay, this is an excerpt from a story I'm currently working on called A Matter of Course. Bending beneath their work table to retrieve a runaway thimble, a needle that had fallen into a groove between floorboards jammed straight into her finger. Ouch, she cried, holding back a God damn it, purely out of respect. Rising from her crouch, she misjudged the table's edge and whacked her head hard against the underside. Shoot! Pony's cheeks flushed. Her yowl startled Mr. Bones, who had been napping in a wicker basket, and he scampered out of the room. She lifted up an arm up over the table's side, holding the tiny silver trophy in a show of victory over her head, smacking defeat. Gran did not look up. Her eyes were focused on a fabric section secured inside a wooden hoop that was leaning against the table, balanced by her hunched body. Skillfully working a needle in and out, she stitched without distraction. On her right side were several wooden spools of thread and a faded tomato pincushion towing a strawberry leash to it like a pet. Without lifting her eyes, Gran declared, "If I had me a dime for every time I poked myself, why, I'd be dancing naked at the bank." Giggling, the young girl tossed her thigh-length ponytail behind her shoulders and rubbed her head. Picking up a piece of tailor's chalk, she tossed it playfully at the old woman, who finally glanced up and bared her dentures like a Cheshire cat. Gran waved a dismissive fly-swatting hand. "Pay it no mind, girlie. Pain's a part of life, comes with the territory. But your misery, well, that there's your own business. Maybe the good Lord is trying to tell you something. Maybe set that there needle aside, waiting for your finger come around." Listening to her hillbilly wisdom, Pony wondered what it would feel like to climb upon that lap snuggled against her aproned bosom. Longings aside, at 17, the teenager considered herself too grown up for such things. And besides, Granny Z was no blood relation to her. Upstairs, a radio was blasting. Someone was pounding bam, bam, bam on the bathroom door, shouting, "It's my turn, goddammit, get out." And the telephone rang its brassy bring, bring, half a dozen times before Tuffy, who was preoccupied jiffing popcorn on the stove, finally answered it. Outside, the family's dog was barking at the mail carrier, who kept repeating, "Down, boy, down." And then Tuffy started yelling, "Ma, telephone," at the top of her kid-sized lungs. It was a real family circus, just like the Sunday comic strip. "How do you stay sane with all this mishigas?" The girl quickly added, crazy to clarify. Gran removed the straight pins from between her lips and pushed them back into the voodoo tomato pincushion. "Well, I don't be trifling with this here outside weather." She flicked a hand like she was tossing birdseed. "Be grateful for your blessings, young'un. Better to praise the troubles God give you than be longing for someone else's sack of misery." Pony was sure Gran was going to say sack of shit, which, for all intents and purposes, was the same message. Meanwhile, Mr. Bowden suddenly hurled his body across the room like Evel Knievel when the front door slammed flat behind someone's hasty departure. Heavy footsteps bound over the porch and the dishes in the china cabinet rattled, same as when the trains rolled by. Oblivious to the chaos, Gran said, "Come on now, girlie, let's put some ice on that there cracked noggin of yours. Poor little pony girl. I'm a wondering if you're trying to knock some sense in or out of your own cotton picking head."
Thanks, Nikki. I'm so glad we were able to unfreeze you, or you unfroze yourself.
Thank you for your patience.
Our next reader is the second poet laureate of Vallejo, D.L. Lang. Welcome.
I have 3 poems for you that capture different moments. This first one is called "In This Moment." I am content to watch the lizards racing across my garden fence, the birds flittering from tree to tree, and the squirrels dancing their way across each limb, as the leaves float softly in the cool autumn air. Upon awakening, they are always there to greet me. Such continuity envelops me in a deep inner joy. Momentarily, I forget all of life's disappointments, and my worries are whisked away with birdsong. There is so much that I cannot control, from natural disasters to loved ones growing old. So I must do what is best for my soul. In this moment, I accept that who I am may not be who I have always been. I will take the steps to change what I can, while accepting that life rarely sticks to my plans. This next one is called "The Hands We Hold." As we join hands, the loving energy flows through us, our feet grounded, drawing upon ancient rhythms as we slowly sway back and forth. Each soul becomes slowly enveloped by joy, voices ringing out, a spectrum of humanity, humming with the vibration of community. For this one moment, everything is as it should be. For this one moment, we are all connected. For this one moment, we are all whole. For this one moment, nothing can disrupt our unity. We float into the comforting arms of possibility. It hugs us like the ocean kisses the sand, and we know that we are home. This last one is called "Camaraderie." As hummingbirds vibrate softly, 2 friends sit among their flight path, catching up on seasons past. Treasured slice of normality lies inside their camaraderie. Catching up on the seasons past, 2 friends sit among their flight path, as hummingbirds vibrate softly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DL. Our next reader is a wonderful poet, Deborah Schmidt.
Thank you, Johanna. What a beautifully organized meeting you're hosting today. It's so good to be with everyone. This one is called Contagion We Hunger For, partly a response to D.L. Lang's poem. Fearful of exposure, we have cut ourselves off even from the benign contagions. We hunger for the lightness of spirit caught from a stranger's smile, for laughter that ripples through a room, for the focus that stills a concert hall, for music that begins with one brave voice and crescendos into harmony, and perhaps most of all, for the warmth of touch that begins with extended fingers and flowers into a hand clasp, a long embrace, or a whole gathering joined in one electric circle. And this next one is for Nikki, the tomato pincushion. This familiar red pincushion, just like the one my mother used, in the shape of a plump tomato, sectioned and capped in green, with a little strawberry dangling from a cord, holds as many stories as colored threads. Carried to Europe by Cortes, or maybe even Columbus, the tomate was deemed at first a poisonous curiosity, cultivated only for its beauty, pomme d'amour, pomodoro. Placed on the mantle, it was thought to draw ill fortune and noxious vapors, a bit of homeopathic magic. When the fruit didn't last, people made them of red cloth. Now imagine with me a thrifty Tudor housewife gathering her skirts to stoop for a precious pin and sticking it expediently into her mantelpiece tomato. Soon she would notice how much easier it was to take a pin from the tomato than to open her ivory pin case and risk pricking her fingers. So why not switch to the cushion? And the strawberry stuffed with emery dust to keep pins and needles smooth and sharp came from the chatelaine of the fancy milliner, where it hung gracefully among the folds of her dress with her bone and silver tools as she sat in her shop front, assembling the fetching hats coveted by passers-by. The sweep of sea voyages, the cruelty of conquest, magic, superstition, accident, and memories of our mothers have all converged in this, the beloved tomato pincushion.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, everyone.
Our next reader is the famous, infamous Peter Bray, poet, handyman, graphic design wizard, on and on and on. Welcome, Peter.
Hey, thank you kindly. It's a treat to be among you bright people. Whoops, hang on, something's, the host is there's something on, unmute myself. Okay.
You're unmuted. You're unmuted.
Thank you. It's nice to be among you bright people. This is called To Zoom Above the Spiral. And the spiral is the key word. It'll show up. This is kind of my state of mind the last 2 or 3 months. And so we learned to Zoom, to walk the new software walk, to sign in, say hello, learn to mute ourselves and check the display board and see who's the Zoom coordinator. Us, the partially viewed and cropped squares with diverse backgrounds, fragmented, creative, responding souls, escaping the coronavirus limitations. Excuse me. Speaking from the safety of home and social isolation, checking the West Coast wildfire reports and air particle indices, the latest horror of fire containment and or lives lost, structures lost, square miles of death and destruction. A Supreme Court icon passes away and remains honored in state, while circling buzzards weeks away from an election get ready to debate the spiraling death of democracy. under an orange buffoon and or treasonous busying herds of encore leaders. Tallying the county, statewide, nationally, and globally. Oh, sorry. Essential superheroes save who and what they can. The ashes run deep and the skies run orange. Poetry and prose are offered as liniment and sutures. Emotional and mental health for a tragic world. Black lives matter. Police lives matter. All lives matter. We still have light years to go before we sleep. Vote like an epiphany blue wave is rolling through in November, because it is. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have the wonderful poet, Kellyanne Parker.
Hello, I don't believe that I can undo my video. I'm getting weird messages. So I had to actually log out and log back in, and now I'm getting, can't share my video.
Johanna, the next person is supposed to be Georgette Howington.
Okay, Georgette, I'm sorry. Will you let me put Kellyanne in right now?
Sure,
Is
go
that
right ahead,
okay?
please.
Okay, my apologies. All right, thank you, Georgette. Hi, Kellyanne.
And I can't wait to hear Georgette afterwards. So
yes, there you go.
Thank you. Also, I wanted to say, Suzanne, thank you for keeping alive the story of the children in detention. As you know, someone who is half Mexican, I have been dealing with a lot of unprocessed rage around this very topic, and I'm really grateful for the people who help keep their story alive. That's not what I'm reading today. The piece I'm reading is a new piece, and it's called Seasons of Me. I am blistering thunder, scorched earth, nuclear sky. I am aqueous torrents, drowning, consuming everything. I'm frigid numbness, shivering, quaking, angry, soggy earth and foggy sky. I am sun-bleached grasses, percussing to unseen breeze, wildflowers, poppies, under cumulus cloud drift, around the roots of sage-old oaks, surviving centuries of wildfire, thrive in centuries of drought. I am the desert. I am alive. I am full of life, unmanicured, untamed, uncontained, unruly, reptilian, subterranean, extraterrestrial, and alien. I am green again, just a little green again. I am not dying yet. New shoots on the ancient stump, whose trunk shorn generations ago and yet survives and even thrives as the arboreal tend elders with love. Below in the microbiome, our generations tend to us. They hold and feed us. Roots wrap around, hug, send water and nutrients, caress and sustain us to tend to future saplings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kellyanne. And our next reader is Georgette Howington, who is a wonderful poet and so many other things. Gardener and bluebird lover and all sorts of things.
Well, thanks to Mary and Johanna and Jim for organizing this reading. It's really nice to see all of you. I feel like I've been away for a long time. My first poem is called A Childhood Memory, and I wrote this for the River Otter Project, and their theme was and is water. A childhood memory. Do you remember holding water in cupped hands, watching it flow through fingers to disappear into the sand? Having nourished all the seeds in geological epochs, rained on ancient forests, droplets cling to petals, shimmering. Bees quench their thirst and blossoms unfold, revealing vast watersheds of creeks where you stood in the icy clear blue, feet on petrified wood, and pieces of the puzzle still unclear. But you saw the crashing waterfalls, listened to river's song, played with fellow creatures in the mainstreams of life. You ran on the infinite stretches of beach, reveling at the rise of soaring cliffs, birds flying in to catch moments before sunset. The tender silhouette of a child making sandcastles in the dusk of human time. So my next poem is called Last One in the Garden. Twilight is my favorite time. Sun hovering, reds, orange, purples paint swaths over the blue canvas. Juncos, finch, sparrow eat ripe seeds from bursting pods. Only me, them, and God. The wind sings and plays the instrument of oak trees. I have nothing left but this pen. It's true, the world is unwell. We humans are being forged, pounded, crushed, folded under the weight. I've been told so were diamonds in Africa that began to form in the Ice Age. I'm fine with all that. This is a perfect moment in the garden as the bees are going home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Georgette. Our next reader is Fiona Hughes. Welcome, Fiona.
Thank you. We've heard so many wonderful and insightful and important topics, and mine are nothing like that. So my two poems are going to add a little levity, I hope. And the first is called Talk to Your Doctor Before Starting Exercise. I admit I'm not competitive and not the least inspired when people jog right past me. All I feel is tired. Sure, it should persuade me to lace up those running shoes and join them pounding pavements instead of opting for a snooze. But it was at my annual checkup, warily stepping on the scale. However, did I gain that much? The number made me pale. Then, are you sexually active? My doctor asked, tight-lipped. Not even physically active, I nonchalantly quipped. Well, cut out the wine and lose some weight, he advised me, looking pensive. The color flared up in my cheeks. I began to feel defensive. Oh, I've joined the gym and bought the tapes and signed up for the classes. I've gamely tackled the elliptical until it fogged up my glasses. I was on a roll now, couldn't stop. The poor doctor looked aghast as my bottled up excuses came pouring thick and fast. The mere thought of exercising just makes me want to sweat. On hearing lunge, I think of lunch, which makes me yearn for a baguette. My mind's racing, I'm run ragged, though seldom at the gym. My day is quite exhausting from the activity I've put in. I think of myself as energetic, spirited, and attractive. I nip to the pub and dash about. At least my verbs are always active. Then when I'm good and sweaty, I hop into the shower right before I join my friends so we don't miss happy hour. And the next one is called Upon Retirement. Since my husband's been retired, he spends a lot of time at home, which is quite a change for me since I like being here alone. It started off quite merrily as he relished his new role, making coffee in the morning, and then we'd take a stroll. He's very good at laundry and does the dishes too. Why do I complain, you ask? Well, apparently that's what I do. It seems that in my many years, I've sliced bread the wrong way. Hubby had to show me how. He likes to have his say. From making beds to roasting meat, I've been doing it all wrong. So while he'd been toiling at his job, I'd just been muddling along. You see, I work from my office in a bedroom of our home and have long relished the solitude of getting work done on my own. But now I have a shadow who likes to follow me around, asking oddball questions on which he further must expound. When I work, I like my peace and quietude to think. My husband, seeing me sitting there, suggests I join him for a drink. Now, a glass of wine at lunchtime in France works very well, but I just end up fast asleep and my workload goes to hell. So I break it to him gently. It's not you, dear, it's me. Let's get tipsy in the evening. I'd like to keep my job, you see. One day while working in my office, I heard my name yelled out. I dropped what I was doing to see what the fuss was all about. Hubby flourished something from the fridge, surveying it with horror. Is this sour cream off? He yelled. It's due to expire tomorrow. Sadly, such are the dilemmas from when from work you are retired. What's my password? Where are my keys? Are questions often inquired. So perhaps like other couples who get on each other's last nerve, we set up a few ground rules that we could both observe. He knows now not to bother me when my office door is closed, and we've acquired Alexa, to whom his questions now are posed. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Our next reader is Tom Stanton, Poet Laureate number 7 of Benicia.
Johanna, how about Elaine Brown?
She could not be here.
Oh.
Thank you, Johanna, Samantha, Mary, and Jim for allowing this to happen and actually facilitating it all together. I'll begin with an epigraph because they say it better than I do. Don't bend, don't water it down. Don't try to make it logical. Don't edit your own soul according to the fashion. Rather, follow your most intense obsessions mercilessly. The poem that I'm about to read is titled Kai, K-I, is the spelling. I have a small preface, which is neither an epigram nor an epigraph. Sand poetry must be erased before the next day and rarely witnessed for fear it bring harm to the poet. On that happy note, the poem. Kai. Here I stand composing a poem for tomorrow, under the Ramada, which must never be seen. Heard across the way from covered walls, there was a long fire burning between rows of rocks, gone into them from the watching. White stripes from the east, our paths to the sun, deer tracks, hunter tracks, blood, Kai, Kai. Our reading about it now at will. as Bani Quash knows. Keep the old ways known a little longer. Well, that is hard to say. It takes too long. People will say, what do you mean? There is no doubt that it is eminently worth the saving. Agna Preta Nogales. Wind sickness ho. There is no ceremony now. He asked a difficult thing. In the morning, it will be finished. Before afternoon, afternoon today is gray. 2 young men with 2 sticks from my garden help to drive out the evil which comes with the sun. Light shone on them from the watching. There is a little sand on the earth. The white stripes on the east, the paths of the sun. It was growing dark in the house, the kerosene lamps being lit. A coyote lapped on the east hill. The door faces west by dark, east by light, north by the end. South meant winds would come. It was growing dark in the house. The kerosene lamps were being lit. Shashki kai, tu swarita an marana. An marana. It may be that the story here you keep with me, keep these things from dying. Little ceremony in the parting, little ceremony in the parting. Silnakia, we left with just the adios, which Bani Quash understood. Bani Quash understood. Then we went out to the road, down past the charcoals, onto the main highway. Thank you.
Poet is Lori Haley. Welcome, Lori.
There now.
There you are. Okay.
There. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know. People keep freezing on me, so let's see if this works. Okay. Hello. Thank you, everyone. This is really a wonderful way to spend Sunday. I'm going to read 2 poems. The first one is still kind of hot off the press, but I thought it was appropriate for this reading. And it is called Yes, I Believe in Hell. October should be cooler and quieter before the sweet sleep of winter. Fog adrift in low light. The sun's breath like translucent kisses of yellow, orange, purple pressed into leaves of oak, birch, maple, and pear. A slight and beautiful bruising, and the gentle swirling, flitting, falling to the ground. Instead, dragon's breath blazes and ignites, the earth's visage aflame. Cinders blow across miles, black leathery leaves carpet gardens, smog replaces fog with unrelenting heat. restraining even the singing of birds. We were supposed to be the sentinels of paradise, but our fantasy of fortune, our greed, manifests this inferno. While the sun sucks out the heart of our earth, we are punished, left with nowhere to go. The second one, I kind of on keeping with a season.
You froze.
Each dawn, the sky bleeds red, fades to pink, dissolves to a disappointing vanilla, endures the hours until evening, when the sun releases maroon and purple to the heavens to dance and flail, oh so briefly, unspooling into the black night. But no sound sleep awaits this winter sky, interrupted by the glare of the hungry moon and the piercing starlight of the winter triangle. In the morning, a murder of crows gathers against the red striped sky, where inside the rider hides from their cries and lamentations. What good does it do to get out of bed only to lumber to the couch to watch some dull series, or stand numb staring into the refrigerator, searching for a cure between the carrots and the celery, or for a song hiding under moldy cheese? Better to stay in bed, swaddle your spirit, and wait. Thank you.
Lori.
Okay, thank you.
Good to hear you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had Nanette Dietz scheduled, but at the last minute, she could not be here, unfortunately. So we're moving down the list to a wonderful poet, Mary Julia Klemenko.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. I don't think I've ever read one of these, and I timed it for 5 minutes, so I hope it'll work. Inside me, there's a little old wizened lady who knows a lot about everything, except she's clueless about relationships, social interactions. She knows everything about what everybody else does because she's a great observer. So her name is Julia Pearl, and this is called Julia Pearl and the Virus. Oh, and she has a little bun, and she's little, and she wears brown lace-up shoes, and she works in the library. You'll have to know that. Locked in with herself for 5 months, Julia Pearl was so upset she alternated between wanting to have wine with her cereal or call the suicide hotline just to talk with another person. Julia Pearl was so frightened, she ordered boxes of military rations from the internet and spent hours online comparing different face masks, gas filters, and hand sanitizers. The new rules were to stay home unless it's necessary to go out, and then wear a mask, stand 6 feet from anyone, and use hand sanitizer frequently, even better to wash your hands often. Several times a day, she swallowed to see if she had a sore throat, because that was one of the first signs. Julia Pearl felt trapped inside a science fiction novel, like the magnetic poles reversed and the world turned upside down. After a few weeks of people dying and going to the emergency room infected with it because the virus seemed to be doubling almost every day, the governor mandated that everyone stay home. Julia Pearl always wore the right kind of mask, gloves, eye coverings, and had plenty of hand sanitizer with her when going to an allowed essential place. What would she do if someone started kicking in her front door? There was no mention in the Bible about the police cruising neighborhoods in advance using loudspeakers to warn about the beginning of the apocalypse. What if robbers started kicking her door in right now? Julia Pearl thought about getting under her desk with her little dog. She imagined being discovered and pulled by one arm out from under her desk by the criminal who shot her dog in his head, blood splattering all over her white dress before she took one to the forehead and lights out. Julia Pearl hated that about herself. Here she was sitting alone in the middle of a pandemic, imagining criminals killing her and her dog. She knew she shouldn't spy on people. Still, it wouldn't hurt to point her telescope toward her neighbor's living room, like they were all sitting together, a lovely couple and Julia Pearl in between them, all watching a movie together. She began setting up her telescope and preparing to make herself a member of the family next door. They didn't have to know a thing, and there was so much more. Julia Pearl knew that's why it must be the end time, since the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse hadn't shown up yet. Julia Pearl decided to dress for dinner. She showered using amber body wash and conditioned her hair so she could pull it into a nice clean knot. Feeling the hot, relaxing needles of water release tension from her back, she wondered how the couple next door met and when did they meet. They seemed pretty comfortable with each other. Every night after they logged out of work on their computers, just like everyone required to work from home these pandemic days, they hugged and kissed each other as if they were from the office. Julia Pearl decided to wear her silky pajamas with big splashes of red poppies. They were her live it up pajamas. She poured herself a glass of wine and headed back to the telescope she'd lowered so she could sit on her couch right between her new friends. It was funny, Julia Pearl thought. Before the pandemic, they'd never greeted each other coming or going on the sidewalk. Now she was going to watch TV with them. It was an enjoyable evening, Julia Pearl thought, as she exchanged her silky pajamas for her favorite worn flannels. She wondered as she stared at the ceiling, her favorite pillow under her head, her electric blanket set at 4, what she would do if the 4 horsemen came in the middle of the night. Was there any point in trying to hide? What kind of noise would they make? Not like the wind on a winter's night. No, Julia Pearl thought, it would sound like rolling thunder, the earth ripping apart. Would her house fall on her? Would help come? Would everyone be dead or dying? Would she just lie there like she was now, only buried in rubble, unable to call out to tell rescuers she was there? Julia Pearl didn't want to think about it tonight. She wanted to think about her new friends, how nice it was not to be alone anymore. She imagined this could work out quite nicely, the 3 of them sharing a life. And maybe someday they'd pass each other in their driveways and call out greetings like old friends. The neighbors wouldn't even feel puzzled because the world had turned upside down. Things had changed, and no one knew what was going to happen next. Thank you.
Next reader is Galen Kusick, and he is the editor of the Benicia Herald. Welcome, Galen.
Hello. Hey, how you doing? Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
All right, so my poem is titled Tubman's, and I just want everybody to know before America is spelled like this, except for once in the poem at the beginning. I don't want to offend anybody by what it says, so I just want to make that clear. Comparing a missed 3-foot putt to the police shooting of unarmed Jacob Blake in the back 7 times, leaving him paralyzed, can only be compared by the robber of America's soul, inflicting paralyzation upon children, families, and communities every day, while we are held hostage by COVID, Putin, white supremacists, and federal and paramilitary Gestapo-like operatives. Andrew Jackson would be proud that America still loves slavery. And 17-year-old white Kenosha killer, Kyle Rittenhouse, became an American hero after shooting 2 protesters with an AK-47. 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, murdered by American hero George Zimmerman. A president that refuses to denounce white supremacists, despite the FBI director's warning, citing it as the greatest threat to our freedom and democracy. Empowering Proud Boys with dog whistles. Stand back and stand by. But we the people will not. We will fight. Traitors slither amongst us with a thirst for tyranny, violence, and hatred. Not liberty and justice for all. But we can stop a civil war. We can unite together as one. Together, we shall overcome. A 20 should read Tubman, not Jackson. But we have to change it. Only we alone can make that change. Vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. And our last reader for today is the wonderful poet, Aquila Lewis Ross. Welcome, Aquila.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for this invitation to be able to share some work. I am going to stay, no picture because I'm hecka tired. My birthday was on Thursday, and I had the opportunity to go voting. That was the highlight of my birthday. And it was an awesome experience. This is for the first time I voted in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm going to share this poem. It's a new poem that I wrote. I think I might have to add some more maybe if it comes through. But this is called Black, Christian, and Republican. 3 strikes and you're out. She was born darker than all the rest. Teased because she didn't fit in. Everyone could see her melanin wouldn't pass their test. No brown paper bags here. But still, she seemed better than all the rest because she found Jesus. I guess that's why she jumped all in. It didn't matter that we were the only one. Colored, surrounded by whiteness and a few selfless Asians who could proudly worship God and be Filipinos. I don't remember the questions I asked because they were quickly shut down. She was Black, Christian, and Republican, and damn proud about it. Oh, excuse me, I'm not supposed to swear or cuss. We didn't always see eye to eye. I always knew I was different, and something was missing. I didn't believe like her that being Christian was more important than being Black, but I longed for the challenge to know the real history. When I came back to visit, wearing my I Love Being Black jacket, heads turned, rotating around like a parliament of owls. And I'm not sure how I feel about Cuba's contract with America. Not sure how America feels about the Black vote. Not sure why we must vote in order to be heard, or if we'll ever be heard. But Christians aren't supposed to intermix with politics, but they're all up in this. And now I'm worried that all rights will be erased, like Black lives. When slaves were formed, they told them they didn't matter, and centuries later, Blacks still don't. I'm gonna do maybe one more. This one is called Give an Artist a Canvas. It was published in the Benicia Herald. Thank you so much, Mary Susan Gast. It's one of my favorite poems. Give an artist a canvas and freedom to create as they please. Practice makes perfect. My body was a canvas. At first, we used to harm, cells held on to pain from generations past. Ancestors spoke truth to power in and through me. It glowed from within. Became my protection, adding another layer of gray-haired wisdom. Paid me gold, carrying riches buried in treasures never open. See the key? Rich people always hide it in unattainable places. Paint me liquefied, fluid as water. Blue-green like the ocean, a favorite color. Peaceful, tranquil. I could stay here until pruning no longer is beautiful on skin. So I posted about a mama who made rainbow spaghetti for dinner. Wish I were that creative or had the energy to be so dedicated. But I would do anything to see my little princess smile. Paint me a rainbow. May I shine bright for all to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Aquila. Before I ask Mary and Samantha to unmute everyone so we can actually hear everyone clap for everyone, I'd like to thank all of you for being here today and how we were able to be connected in this moment. If you like this, would you please email me or let us know somehow? And maybe we can do this again at the beginning of next year. Of course, my ultimate hope is that soon we can all meet again in person and share our poetry and our writing together and hug and be together again. But until that time, I think this is a really good way to stay connected. So I'm going to ask everyone to unmute themselves. Let's give a round of applause. And then, you know, you guys can chit chat for a few minutes if you like. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo.
Everybody.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Laura.